Hello everyone and welcome to BHC Studios. Today we'll be taking a look at the brand new Fujifilm XF 70 to 300mm f4 to 5.6 R LM OIS WR. Now for those of you wondering what's all those numbers mean, well the R just basically means it has an aperture ring, and LM is the linear motor that they put in this lens for quiet and fast autofocusing. OIS is the optical image stabilization, and WR is weather sealing. Now this lens in full frame equivalence works out to a 107 to 457mm equivalent. And back in the film days, having a lens that went up to close to 500mm, it wasn't this compact. They typically were primes and they were huge and very expensive. So having a lens of this size and weight, being able to get close to a 500mm equivalent in full frame is pretty darn awesome. Now it has 9-blade diaphragm opening, so you get nice smooth autofocus area. It has 5.5 stops of optical image stabilization, which will also work with the IBIS on any of the cameras like the XT4 or the XS10. Close focusing, it's 83 centimeters, so it works out to be a 0.33 times magnification, which is not too bad. Now in terms of price, this is where the pricing is pretty cool because it is coming in at $799 US or $1,050 Canadian. The reason why the price is pretty darn cool is because in terms of focal length, it kind of lands sort of in between this monstrous 100 to 400mm lens, and as well as the, I don't have the lens, but it's the XF 55 to 200 lens, which is $699. So you have $699 for the 55 to 200, you have $1,899 for this monstrosity, and then you have $799 for this lens right here. And so in terms of price performance, I actually think this is probably the best balance, because one unique feature that this lens has that isn't available on the 55 to 200 is that it works with these teleconverters. And so up till now, these teleconverters could only be used on more the higher end red badge, red label lenses like the 50 to 140 f2.8 and this 100 to 400, and that's it. You know, they're all pro optics. And so Fujifilm had said that this is not like an entry level lens. This is considered one of their more prosumer lenses. And so it's 17 elements in 12 groups, with one spherical element and 2 extra low dispersion glass elements for really sharp images. But optically, I think this will probably perform very similar to the 55 to 200, which isn't a bad thing. That lens was pretty darn sharp and pretty darn light for what it was. But now you have this new one, and the advantage is, of course, you can pop on these teleconverters. So let's just do that now. So when you pop on this teleconverter, and the way this works is they leave enough room inside here for the teleconverter lens to pop in. So let's just line this up here. There you go. With the teleconverter now, it works out to very close to this. A little bit more on the telephoto end, and look at this, look at the size difference. Look at the size difference, even though you're going to get the same focal length. Although with this lens here, it is going to be at f8 and not f5.6. So you still have that advantage of that extra stop on the 100 to 400, but look at the size difference. And so the way I'm going to test this is basically, I think this is a good match with the XS10. So let's just put this on here. Here we go. So this is the 70 to 300 with the 1.4 times teleconverter on the XS10. And so let's look at sort of size and weight. Now the XF 70 to 300mm on its own, the lens on its own, is 580 grams. So when you add this 70 to 300 with the XS10, the weight is 1,044. Now compare that to the 100 to 400 on the XT4. So the lens alone, the XF 100 to 400 by itself is 1,453 grams, which is already 400 grams more than the 70 to 300 on the XS10. All right, but you are getting more focal length with this. But when you add the XT4, now you're at 2,051 grams for this kit. So it is over 2 kilograms for this. But you know, you're getting a pro optic, right? Now let's compare this with this setup here. So if you want to equate to a similar focal length, right? So now with this 1.4 times teleconverter, now you're getting a similar focal range. The weight is 1,175 grams. It is still 876 grams lighter than this kit right here. And let's just put them kind of side by side here so we can sort of see. I don't think my camera here can even show the sort of the size difference, but I mean that is a huge difference in size and weight. And if you look at the weight difference, so I said it's an 876 gram weight difference. That's like adding a 16 to 55 f2.8, which is 655 grams, and the XF23 f2 RWR at 180 grams, and you're still lighter with that kit than with this lens and this body alone. So if weight is a big deal, let's just say you are, I don't know, climbing a mountain or hiking or doing some kind of sports adventure type thing, and photography is either secondary or even if it's primary, I would say that this kit here saves you a lot of weight. Because remember, between the X-T4 and the XS10, you have the same sensor and the same processor. This XS10 can do 80 to 90% of what the X-T4 can do. So if size and weight is very important to you, I think this kit here is something you should definitely consider. Now, in terms of price, the 1.4 times teleconverter as well as the 2 times teleconverter that I have here, they're both $450 US. So you add $799 and $450, you are still way below the price of $1,899 on this 100 to 400. Now the 100 to 400 can also take these teleconverters as well. So if you need even more pull, then obviously your choice is going to be a lens like this. But if you are on a kind of a budget, but as well as if, again, size and weight is very important to you, then consider buying this lens here. And with this teleconverter, you're going to get a similar focal range as this, but you're going to be at f8 wide open on this versus f5.6 on this. But you know, you paid the price. This is a red label lens, and this is not, but it could actually take the accessories of a red label lens, which is quite unique for Fujifilm. And so I know people are going to ask anyways, but this lens here is made in the Philippines, and so that'll be another distinguishing factor. This red label lens here is, and I think all red label lenses thus far are all made in Japan. And so in terms of build, construction, and quality, the red label is going to be at a higher quality, but this lens definitely doesn't feel cheap. 67mm filter thread versus 77, so that's going to be another huge difference in terms of filters. If you already have 77mm filters, well then that's good for you, but if you don't, 67, especially if you have, like I have a lot of 72mm filters, all I gotta do is get a step down ring down to 67, so that'd be great for me. But if you are just sort of starting out with these monster lenses, then these filters can get quite expensive. And so here we go. Here again is the difference between these two right here, and I'm going to be taking these cameras out. I typically don't shoot telephoto. I've never tested even the 50 to 140 2.8. I've never tested the 55 to 200. I've never tested the 100 to 400 because I don't really do sports and wildlife type photography. But you know, Fujifilm asked if I wanted to give this a try, and I said sure, let's do it. And so I'm gonna go out and check out this lens out in the field and let you know how it all works out.